Started. Thank you and welcome to the Indianapolis Tableau user group. This is our Q3 meeting that's been a little bit delayed, but we're happy to have a new meeting going on right now. And you'll see that we've had some change out of co-leaders. And I just wanted to introduce some new names. And we've got a new co-leader named Clay McNeff. He's C-Spring. He's been using Tableau for 5 years and he's a senior Tableau developer. We've got Dakota Bagwell, and if you've been a member of the Indianapolis Tableau user group for a while, he actually presented back at Defenders when we were still in person. He's at the Indiana Metrics Performance Hub. He's a senior business intelligence developer and has been using Tableau for over 3 years, very passionate about it. And then we've also have Brad, who's been with the iTug for a long while now, and I actually am going to pass it over to him to explain the good news.
Hey everyone, yeah. So I kind of I made this announcement via the LinkedIn group but for those of you that are not on LinkedIn or don't check messages there, it hasn't been so recently now, but I am with Tableau now, and there's just a conflict of interest with me being part of the group. Or leading the group, I should say. I still plan to be heavily involved and a guest speaker from time to time, including today. So you guys are in great hands with Ryan, Clay, and Dakota. So I want to say thank you for your engagement over the last, I don't know how long I've been doing this, maybe 5 years, 6 years. It's been a great run. I've had a lot of fun doing it. I've had a lot of fun meeting all you guys. So looking forward to still being involved as a member.
Yes, we'll be happy to have you every once in a while. Pop back in, Brad, and let us know what's new with Tableau. Looking forward to that. Jumping to our agenda, we're actually going to be going through some data management tools that Brad's going to be presenting on. Dakota is going to be walking us through some MPH dashboards that are actually public and you can see on their website. So if you're actually interested in seeing how a Tableau dashboard would work embedded in your company's website, I think he'd be a great person to ask about how that might operate. And then we also have tips and tricks, which is always a classic favorite that Clay is going to be walking us through for roughly 20 minutes. We'll try to keep to this agenda in terms of time length, but we might be a little bit early on time to give you back some time during your day. And I'm actually going to be doing something that's a little bit new. We're going to be running a poll on why you're interested in joining iTug and get us some feedback on potentially things that we could do to improve our meetings. And then we're also going to have a quick poll at the end. So please take these quick questions and then we'll get started on the agenda. It should be showing up in your questions. It should be popping up for you to be able to answer these quick. We'll give it a few minutes. It's just a few questions to answer for us to help us improve and give us a little bit of feedback on what you might be interested in seeing in the future.
Tips and tricks, always the most popular.
All right, we'll give it one more minute. All right. I think that's got all of our participants that are excluding the co-chairs. So I'm going to be ending the poll. And let's move on. Quick disclaimer, this is more something that's for in person when the members were more easily having discussions about things that could be more collusion. And what we're trying to do as a user group is to stay away from those things that could ever be construed that way. We're going to try to avoid anything that's anything to do with pricing, to be able to be that something that would be anti-competitive and antitrust laws. But this is more of just a disclaimer that we need to share as a user group. So moving on from there, our purpose, what we're trying to do is to share the best practices on visualizations, these tips and tricks that everyone's really excited about, sharing ideas of how other businesses within Indianapolis are using Tableau and other technologies to leverage it into solving business problems. Sometimes very unique ways to solve these problems with Tableau. I am constantly trying to push the envelope of what Tableau is actually used for within Car Global. And I also really enjoy the strong focus on networking, which I'm very looking forward to having more in person, or just networking things that we can do virtually is also being discussed as well. Structure. We're always having co-chairs. We're trying to have these co-chairs to be the most enthusiastic and experts within Tableau, to give credibility to our ability to show you these tips and tricks, to explain how things work, how to answer questions. If you have anything going on within Tableau that you don't understand, you can always send us a message on LinkedIn and we'll do our best to get back to you on either how to do this, or if we could connect you with someone that's doing it better, that we know are experts in something that you're trying to do specifically with Tableau. And Brad's always going to be a great resource for that too, since he's in Tableau right now. We're also going to be assisting in recruitment. If you're trying to find someone new, we always like to connect people within our LinkedIn group that, hey, this person's looking for a new job and we know you're looking for someone that's an expert within Tableau. Sometimes we'd like to do that connection there. Also, in these structured meetings, if you are first joining, we are meeting quarterly. We try to get feedback on what our members are most interested in, which we're going to be using this polling feature in the future to try to get more suggestions on instant feedback on what subjects are the most important. We try to have members present as much as possible, which we're always looking for members to present. We're going to have an opening slot for Q4 of 2021. We're also looking for local places to host an event, which we've been virtual for the last year and a half, but we're also structuring the meetings to be one introductory meeting and then one advanced topic. And that's to try to serve everyone within our membership. Even if someone's brand new to Tableau, we're trying to give them some value from that. And we're also trying to serve the experts within our membership to give them an advanced topic of something that might be new within Tableau as well. We always present that connecting with us on our LinkedIn group is the best way to connect with us. And it's the best way to know when our Q4 is coming out. We're currently targeting December 8th right now, and we'll be sending out messaging for that. But notoriously, we've been having some issues with Splash and getting the messaging out doing that. That's why we always recommend that you connect with us on LinkedIn, because we know that we're going to get the messaging out to that group and that you'll never be able to miss a meeting that way. So jumping right in, Brad, would you like to take us away for the data management tools?
Absolutely. All right. Do I have to kick you off to share, or okay? Let me share this. Okay, give me a second to get set up here. And can you guys see my screen? Is it just the slides? All right, perfect. All right, folks, I am going to be kind of walking us through our data management add-on, and this is for, this is not in Tableau Desktop, so this would be in Tableau Server or Tableau Online, depending on how your company or organization has configured and the choice that you went with one of those two options. Really what we have here is, we have a new data reality, right? We have, the reality is that volume and the importance of data is not slowing down. Instead, it's just extremely, it's growing at an extremely fast rate. With this volume, we see more complex environments because data is coming from literally every direction in various formats and modes, right? Flat files, cloud data sources, on-prem data sources, all kinds of stuff. This complexity can make it very, very, very difficult for IT to manage it. So that's why, we at Tableau have introduced data management, and this has been one of our products that we've had for several years now. We see more and more customers that are actually, that are deciding to go with data management. So really the result of all this stuff is that there's a decrease trust in the analytic environment, and there's kind of, I guess, back and forth between IT and the business. So how can we help solve this? Like I said, is data management. The value of data management, I'll get into kind of the details of what data management is, what is included in that, but this is kind of Tableau's take on data management. And we show 4 pillars here: trust, discoverability, scale, and integration. From the trust standpoint, the data is more visible and you're able to control it, allowing to kind of better manage your data environment, while also delivering further discoverability for the right data and analysis at the right time for the right folks in your organization. Makes it a lot easier to scale so you can manage it a lot better. And we have very, very rich integration with a variety of tools. A lot that we see is integration with existing data catalogs like Calibra or Elation. So I kind of like to think of Tableau data management as an extension of kind of those data cataloging tools that your organization might have, where those tools are a little bit meant for more of the enterprise-wide data catalog, and the data management is kind of an extension to that catalog that kind of incorporates just your Tableau environment, your Tableau server. So this is Tableau data management. It comes with 2 main pieces. There's a lot in each of these pieces, but I'll explain these at a very, very high level here. We have our Tableau prep conductor, and this enables you to automate and schedule your prep flows on the server. So for example, if you want, a flow to run, every morning at, 8 a.m. before folks come in and look at dashboards, you can enable that with Prep Conductor. The other piece of this is Tableau Catalog, and this is kind of the extension of the enterprise data catalog tools that we see in the industry today, like Elation, Calibra, and so forth. And really this allows a lot more visibility to your data and to your environment, and helps with governance and metadata as well. So the catalog is going to make a lot more sense once I get into the demo here very shortly. So here's a few more pieces on Tableau Prep Conductor. I'm not going to read each of these individually, but this is a little bit more information for Tableau Prep Conductor. And then we have Tableau Catalog as well, right? So what we kind of talked about, helping with governance and trust and content and so forth. I have 2 more slides here and we'll get into the demo. But really, there's 2 kind of audiences that we see data management really helping. It's one is for this content consumers. You have the capability to see data quality warnings. You can search and browse certain data objects, and you can expect data details, so you can understand kind of the source, the fields, the refreshness. And again, I will touch on these very shortly. And lastly, kind of for the more admin side or the more IT side, the search and browse catalog of external data assets, so you can see all of your assets that are inside of Tableau Server. So there's no code required, no additional kind of setup, any sort of additional data table or external data source is going to be logged in the external data tab inside of Tableau Server. You can perform impact analysis, which is kind of what you see on the right-hand side, that photo with the little blue bars kind of showing how many flows are included, how many data sources, and so forth. We can generate data warnings to alert users on certain things like PII, the refreshness of the data, if the data is under some sort of maintenance. And lastly, with the integration piece is the data management add-on allows for a little bit more customization when it comes to working with the API. So with that, let me switch over to the actual demo. All right, here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So this is a view. I am going to start out from the standpoint of the content consumer. And this is a dashboard that we have on Tableau Server. And one thing that I want to point out right as you open this dashboard is you have this important data quality warning that affects this view. So you get a banner and alert that says you should probably, for the user, that says you should probably check out kind of what's going on with this. So you can either open the data details by clicking this, and I'll do that now. You'll notice another window pop open, and I'll walk through this here in a second. Or you could open up the data details right here, right? So depending on if you can turn on and off that banner. So maybe you don't want to have that banner on, but you just want to have some additional metadata and insight to your views. You can do that and leverage those data details here. So you'll notice when this pops open, you can see the views of the dashboard over time. You can see the workbook, the project that it's included in, the author of this. If you need to reach out to someone or so forth, you have everything right there. And the last time it was modified. You also have kind of this data quality warning here. And if I click on this, I want to show you what this is. So we have an upstream of the asset, right? So we have the entire database that's saying this is under maintenance. And then if we can go a step lower and we can show that there's some sort of warning on actual individual tables within that database. The beauty of this is you set it one place and it's going to cascade throughout your entire Tableau Server, Tableau online environment. So there's no having to, insert data quality warnings in multiple different places. You can also add some descriptions here, right? So we have some clicks under maintenance. We have, some being reviewed for potential modifications, and they can include an additional date if they want. So I wanted to point that out there. And then you can scroll down here. We have a little bit more information from the data source to, kind of portion of this, what it's connected to, the last refresh date. If it's a live connection, it's obviously going to say live connection. But if it was, an extract or something, it would say the last time this data set was refreshed. And lastly, on this piece, I want to point out these fields in use. So say, for example, you may be a new user, or maybe you're new to the dashboard, and you're looking at this dashboard and you're thinking, what is click-through rate, right? My numbers are saying something differently. I want to understand how the author of this is actually calculating click-through rate. Well, the beauty of that is you can do that here, right? So if I click on click-through rate right down here, the owner could add a description to this if they would like to, right? So they've added this click-through rate is the number of clicks divided by the number of impressions. And then you can also see the calculation, right? So you can see how it's actually calculated to see if it's calculating the correct way, or maybe you have other divisions and other departments that like to look at this metric in a little different way. So they have a lot more understanding, a lot more trust with the dashboard, with what they're actually viewing. I'm not going to go through each of these, but you kind of get the idea for each of these pieces. So that is kind of from a content consumer perspective. And now I want to jump over to kind of an admin perspective or so forth. And let me set the stage here. Right now, I'm going to act as a DBA on the IT team. That's also the Tableau admin. It's been brought to my attention by leadership that we are that there's some PII in a data source, a Superstore data source that we need to kind of look into. We need to investigate further, and we need to possibly remove that if possible. So I am going to, so this would be kind of the home, right? This is Tableau Server. A lot of you, are probably familiar with this view. If I go to this external assets page, I can quickly see all of the databases and files here that are connected to our Tableau server. So again, there's no coding needed. Anytime someone adds a new asset here, it's going to show up. We can look at databases and files, or we can look at tables. You could also see at a quick glance things like data quality alerts, right, which we see on these two sample Superstore data sets. And you could also see the certification of any of these data sources as well. That would show up as a green check mark here. You can see which workbooks and data sources are being used most often. And you can sort this, you can filter this. So this can really give like an admin a high level overall really good use and understanding of how their servers working and what are the most popular types of content on here. So I'm going to go ahead and select this sample Superstore data source, and you see it has this data quality warning. So when I log in here, you'll see that there's sensitive data here. And when I click on this again, just like you saw in the data details pane, we see, it's sensitive data. This data source contains PII. You can also see, the file path, right? So if this might be, an AWS instance that would have the file path there, or the path, the URL. You can see the specific type, what type of category, if there are any tags or descriptions available. One thing I want to point out on tags is this is a really, really, really great way to flag your content, right? So when I search up here and search for any sort of tag, it will pop up here, right? So if I search for flow, it's going to show anything that has flow in our entire Tableau server. It gives us a little preview. I can click enter to see all of this stuff, or I can drill into each of these and it'll take me right to that. What you've probably noticed is within the sample store, kind of a higher level data source, we have two different tables, people and orders. You can quickly see that there's a data quality warning on orders table. And if I click on this, I can see that there's sensitive data here, which is exactly what we've been looking for per our management. And it says this table contains customer sensitive data. You can also get some of the same views as the last screen with number of workbooks, data sources it's connected to, and so forth. I'm going to get into this lineage piece in a second when I click on this order table. But when I click on this, you'll see that there's these two data quality warnings. And again, this is similar to the data details pane, just from another kind of different pane of glass. But if I click on this, we can see, okay, there's that sensitive data notification that we saw in the previous screen. And then we can also see upstream from this table, we have the same kind of overarching sensitive data quality warning as well. Again, the similar types of things, you can have tags, descriptions, file paths, and so forth. But what's really nice about this is when you come in here, you can add descriptions here. So if you have new people, or if you have folks that are leveraging the same view over and over again, and you're constantly getting a question about what does discount mean, I can come into discount and I can add a description, average discount applied, right? So I can save this. I can also add tags as well. And then you'll notice that this pops up here for average discount applied. Now, we realize here that we see that there's a customer ID and we have a customer name in this data source. Based on knowledge of the data, these probably are both unique unless you have some sort of name that's very common, like a John Smith or maybe a Jane Smith. So in this scenario, we are going to go ahead and we want to remove customer name. That's going to remove the PII from this data source. But before I do that, I don't know how this is going to affect other dashboards that's being used, other owners, other workbooks, other projects. So if I click on this customer name here, you'll notice that this little blue bar appears and it shows you how the lineage of this actual field, right? It's in one database, it's in one data source, it's in 2 of 17 workbooks, 2 of 27 sheets, and so forth. I want to email the owners and alert them that said, hey, we're going to remove customer name. Please adjust your views and your dashboards accordingly. I can quickly click on owners here, and I can click both these folks, and I can send them an email. It's grayed out for my permissioning, but I can send them an email directly from the server that says, hey, we're going to be retiring customer name from the database. Please, look at your views and make sure that nothing's going to break, and that you've corrected those types of issues. There's one more piece of data management that I want to mention, and it's the scheduling of Tableau prep flows. And here you have kind of the overview of the prep flow. You get a kind of a view of what it's doing. Okay, it looks like it's joining 2 different data sources together. We're doing a left join. We're doing another left join for another data source, and then we're doing some cleaning step, and we're outputting this back to the server, it looks like. You can get some additional high-level information here, any sort of errors, the schedule of the flow, and the status the last time it succeeded or failed. If I go to the connections page, you can see all the connections that were leveraged in this Tableau prep flow. So it looks like we have an Excel document, a PDF file, and something off our Tableau server. We can see the scheduled tasks here, the status of those, the last time they ran, the next scheduled run. We can see all the run history, right? So if we had any sort of failures, they would show up here. You can see things like duration, the run start, the run type, if it was a full or incremental extract refresh, and so forth. And then finally, our lineage, which is similar to what I just explained kind of with the fields, is we can do the lineage with the Tableau prep flows as well. And you can see kind of how, how the flow fits in with the entire lineage of your server or Tableau online. So with that, we'll let this load a little bit, but with that, I'm happy to answer any sort of questions you may have, or I'd be happy to follow up with you afterwards if you prefer to reach out that way. So let me stop the share and see if we have any questions from anyone. I can answer those on the fly. And if not, I can hand it back over to Ryan.
We'll give it a minute to have anyone type something out in chat, and then we'll get started.
Perfect.
Fantastic job. I usually spend most of my time in desktop, and I really need to brush back up on these data management tools.
Yeah, Ryan, we see a lot of customers, they're really starting, I'd say about maybe 5-10 years ago, data management, metadata, data catalogs really weren't on, it's kind of not on the top priority list. But now we are really seeing a ton, folks kind of leveraging data management, leveraging Elation, Calibra, and tools like that as well.
Especially with the self-service kind of platform, pushing that out, having those descriptions on those fields is really going to be beneficial to have the description and being able to see the detail. Looks like we got some questions in here, Brad.
Oh, perfect. All right, great. Okay, so the first one, so this updates on Tableau only applies to the latest version. Great question. It's not the latest version. So I believe data management came out, gosh, probably 3 years ago. If you did a quick Google search, I don't know off the top of my head. Data management. You can see when this was released. It looks like it was released in, no, this is not right. I'm not sure. I want to say it was about 2019. So this has been in the platform for the last probably 2.5 years or so. So just make sure that you check. Most customers, I would say, upgrade on an annual or biannual basis. You'll have some folks that upgrade a little bit less frequent than that, but that's definitely not best practice and not what we'd recommend. So I mean, are there some folks that are 3 years behind? Absolutely. But this is, I would imagine that most people on the call here have a Tableau server that would support data management. So that was a great question. I assume one can add all connection types supported by Tableau. Yeah, so I think I understand the question, Sandro. So anyone it's not just an IT admin or a Tableau admin, right? So if I wanted to connect to, say, an AWS cloud instance or Redshift instance, and I'm a creator of a dashboard, when I connect to that and publish that dashboard and that data source up into Tableau Server, it's going to make a log. Tableau Server is going to make a log of that. So it keeps it for you. So yes, to your point, I think all connection types are supported by Tableau. We can connect to virtually any data source, whether it be a native connector, a connector built by one of our third-party partners, or with a JDBC or ODBC connection. Okay, is this an admin only thing? No, this is not an admin only thing, right? So I would say from an admin perspective, right, from the data steward perspective, those folks are maybe scheduling flows, selecting schedules, kind of creating those data-driven alerts. But there's a lot of benefit to the end user to trust the data, to understand, what's going on with the data, how things are calculated, the lineage and impact, and so forth. So I wouldn't say this is an admin thing only by any means. All right, we got another question. Ryan mentioned Tableau Desktop. Is this done differently on Tableau Desktop? So nothing is different from a data management. Data management is a Tableau Server or Tableau Online product. It's not a Tableau Desktop product. So really, your experience wouldn't change at all from a Tableau Desktop standpoint. It's more for the admin and for the governance and the trust side of things, and the scheduling of prep flows as well. So nothing would change from a Tableau Desktop standpoint. And then we have one more question from an okay, so if the data source is a CSV, will it mention what CSV is used, or actually will provide the name of the particular column? So yes, so if a CSV is used, it will provide you the CSV file path, or the Excel file path in that nature. And will it provide the particular name of the column? Yes, so it will show all of the columns inside of that CSV source. Let me see if I can pull up what that would look like here. Yeah, so let me share my screen one more time. Yes, so these are all the column. These would be all, in this scenario, we're working with Microsoft Excel, but if this were a CSV file, it would act the exact same way, right? So you have all your columns here in that CSV file. And if you would click on one, right, it would act the same exact way, right? How many times this column is used in data sources, workbooks, sheets, dashboards, and so forth. So I think that answered that question. These are all great questions, guys. I love the engagement. Keep them coming. Does it use the CSV column name or the name of the field if it was renamed? So it would use the name that it would renamed, right? Because there would be no way for necessarily Tableau Server to know which name is right or wrong, right? A good example might be for finance. They might characterize something one way, right? We'll call it average sales. And then for marketing, they might say sum of sales, right? Tableau Server, those are both right to both different people in both different departments. But the Tableau Server, it won't know, right, which one is right or which one is wrong. So that would be kind of a scenario that would probably need to be addressed before the data ended up in Tableau Online, or you could have some sort of description or alert that says, hey, average sales is used by, finance, and sum of sales is used by marketing, or something like that. Excel name or name in the data source. Yeah, so Stacy, in this case, the Excel name, like, even though there's an ongoing joke, Excel is not a database, but in this scenario, Excel is a data source. So it would depend what you're connected to. If you're connected to the Excel file, it would show the column name in the Excel file. But if you're connected to the data source, that would show you the name in the data source, if that makes sense. So it depends what you're connected to. It's not going to show you kind of both of those per se. I think it has to do with some of the different like tables that could be within a data source, right? So you have a database that's kind of the overarching, like, high level data source. And then within that database, you have different tables and views and so forth, right? So that's how the lineage, you can understand the lineage of, okay, if I click on this field that's in this table inside of this data source, right? You can see it's kind of a level, if you want to think of it that way. Great questions, guys. I love it.
Yeah, wonderful interaction. I think we're gonna have to cut off questions here. If you are having any more questions, please connect with Brad either through the direct messaging and chat. He's gonna be on here for a little while longer. And then we're gonna be transitioning into Dakota to keep on the schedule. We've got 45 minutes left. And then before we kick it over to Dakota right now, I just wanna have one disclaimer. He's gonna be going through a lot of Indiana state government information, and that includes public health. And that becomes something that we're going to be going through COVID data and vaccination rates. Please keep your opinion of both of those professional. Please don't give your opinion on those things. He's just going to be going through how the state has been putting together these dashboards and how it operates with no interpretation. So as a professional group, please keep professional. And Dakota, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Hello, Tableau ITUG, Dakota Bagwell here. So as Ryan said, I'm the Senior Business Intelligence Developer for the state's Management Performance Hub. I have a really great opportunity to be able to work with a lot of phenomenal data experts and to be able to put these great dashboards out. So not all of them are produced by me. Actually, only one of them is. The others are people that I get to work with either personally or via consultant, but it's all things that are available for the state of Indiana. As Ryan mentioned, I'm not going to be going through like explanation of information. It's more about like how we're doing things and how we're using Tableau, how we're embedding it into the website. You're going to see me pointing this way. It's because I have dual monitors. So my face is showing up over here, but I'm going to be working off of this. So the first one that we have here today is the Indiana Teacher Compensation School Finance Dashboard. So this is actually one of the things that was required of us either late last year or this year. This is available for everyone so that you can go through and check out how Tableau, how we're using it at this level, in the sense that you can go through and select individual school districts. You can go through and select teacher compensation, expenditures. And so what I want to show here, right, is that as you're selecting through, there's multiple means to get to multiple layers of information. So when you go through, this all is all referencing different Tableau dashboards. So think of it as layer by layer. Every one of these guys, as you select, is kind of its own block inside its own block. So it might look like it's seamlessly transitioning, and that's the way we intend it. But each one of these is its own published Tableau dashboard that's linking to each other using sub URLs or sub vises. So as you click through, it's loading a whole new Tableau dashboard, and it looks like that. It's functional for us. So this is one dashboard here, and the shell sits underneath everything in dark gray. With that, you're allowed to get into it however you like. And so we made it so that as you drop down into it, you can get to multiple levels of information. This part was great because what we were able to do is we can, Tableau, you can't really, it's not so much of a get, right? Where multiple people can be working on multiple sections at a time. Well, what we ended up doing was we broke up each one of these, and multiple developers were able to chip away at each of these with one person. So imagine writing a paper in college, right? Or sharing work, in the sense like, as long as we have one person that puts it all together at the very end, formatting wise and things of that nature. This was probably one of our most collaborative pieces. And it took, I want to say, well into a year to build. So if you guys ever get time to check it out, you're more than welcome to play with it. But the idea here, again, it's something that is impactful for everyone. It's a great topic. It's more or less, it just inspires conversation, and it's a great use of how we're able to nest in a shell Tableau dashboards. The other instance is the equity data portal. So this one's much more recent, within the last few months. The idea here, instead of having an individual shell, we have each one of these individual subtabs. So as you click through, you're able to sub-tab through, and then you can even see that you can get more into it, the information. So what we want to avoid is having one major dashboard to house all of these individual dashboards. The reason we chose to do that was functionality, in the sense that this process is faster across the board, because it gives it a chance to load up every time. So as I'm selecting through, the actual load time is less. So for us, being a public facing dashboard, one of the big things is making sure that we have enough nodes and things of that nature to be able to handle people viewing it as much as we can. The next dashboard is the vaccination dashboard, and we have to be much more mindful of it. But the idea here, right, we're dealing with people that are either using their phones or they're using their computers, and nobody likes to wait for things. We're all in the instant gratification world. So the idea here, right, as you're selecting things, if I'm waiting longer than like 10, 15 seconds, you're more than likely not going to engage with it. So Tableau performance is very critical to us. So as you're going through these things, and the first part of my presentation is going through these, and then we're going to go through like what are some of the best practices, how we go about building out world-class dashboards for the state of Indiana. So this is another great example of that. We'll go to the vaccination dashboard. So whereas in the three examples, right, the first example was that shell with multiple dashboards in it. The second dashboard has multiple tabs to be able to flip through multiple dashboards. The vaccination dashboard is actually all one dashboard or one Twiblix file, in the sense that you can easily tab through here using tabs. And I absolutely love this. Being able to go back and forth between, and it looks like you're changing, but you're really not. The other excellent use of a tool that I saw here is this legend right here isn't actually tied to anything. So what we did was you created a box, and you colored the box given a particular, in this case, percent of population, and then you keep it here. So now you're able to build this out however you want. So it makes legends, it kind of bypasses the whole need for a legend in the traditional sense that you can make it much more robust. And it's something that I was using over here, more or less. So as you can see, right, traditional legends, I would have had to have it in some way, shape, or form. Here, it's very much more manageable. One of the crazy things that I had to really take into consideration, we've been really mindful of, is people love taking screen grabs. And if they're going to do that, I want to make sure that what's getting captured is something that is conversational, and you don't have to go back and like, okay, so what's the red one? Red one is Asian. Oh, okay. So the idea here is like when people do take screen grabs, because the future is paper, right? The idea where people are going to go back and forth and say, all right, how do we make sure that to do this in a very functional manner? That's really positive. Same thing here, right? So being able to select through multiple tabs. In this one instance, we've done a really good job of having lean information. That's something we're going to talk to you about next. So some of the best practices we use at MPH, I'm going to go through each of these, but I wanted to list 4. So high level, traditional Tableau users versus MPH's take. And MPH again stands for Management Performance Hub. How we format our data resources is critical. Same with how we format the actual dashboards. And the final one is our ethics and how we approach things. When you think traditional Tableau, I think of a user that's able to connect to a data source and be able to self-service, versus how MPH uses it is much more a la carte and more tailored dashboard views. So what that means, right, is normally I provide you a well-tailored data source. A salesperson or a sales rep can look at it, do whatever, build up their own dashboards, make it really useful for their calls. Versus MPH, we're commissioned to say, all right, we have a multitude of data. And this is kind of our objective. This is a house bill. This is XYZ. We want to be able to show a great story using it. And we want to make sure that everyone can use it at all levels. Right. So that's the other thing that you have to be really mindful about when you're producing public facing information from our level, is that you are going to get every walk of life that gets a chance to do this. And social media wise, that everyone gets a chance to critique. So we need to make sure that we're really mindful and meaningful about what we show and how we show it, so that everyone can everyone has a good idea or an understanding of what goes into it. Now, as far as performance goes, one of the best things you can do when building out a public-facing dashboard that we've found is to have very good lean data. And so when I say lean, if you had 80 columns in your data resource, and you're only using 3, I would have a particular layer to build up from what I would call the QA or the dev layer to level of production. So when you make to that level of production, or you're that public level, I want to make sure that of those 80 columns, we're only using what's available. And of those 80 columns, right, or however wide you want to make it, I want to make sure that what we're showing is to the aggregate level. Every time you interact with Tableau, it has to ping the data sources, all data sources, and re-render. So as fast as that can go, the better it is. So the fewer rows, the fewer columns it has to digest, the quicker it can be. One of the things that we definitely is kind of a must for us is making sure that everything operates on an extract of some capacity. And then we make sure that we're also trying to publish to Tableau Server data sources. So one of the things that we've done, we've gotten away from, is trying to publish like using Excels or anything like that. We want to make sure that what we're using is a curated Tableau data source that's backed up and certified. Certified Tableau data sources is actually new, I want to say this year. It's something that we've been using. It's something I recommend all of your data stewards to be on and being aware of. Basically what certified means is that when you're searching through your data sets, anything that is certified is going to appear up over information that's non-certified. So what we're doing is we're building out data sets so that anyone in our agency or other agencies that look at our information can go back and say, all right, we know that this is a certified data source in the sense that someone's looking at it, it's getting updated, and it's being used. Because of the other catalog management systems in Tableau, you can actually go to the data source and see where all the information is being tracked at. So Lineage. Formatting wise, again, as you guys saw, it is really easy to get out of control with a bunch of different views. So whereas you're tabular, or you have that that shell to go through, where you have the nested views using various containers, it gives everyone a chance to be able to click through and have the website give a chance to update and render before the user gets a chance to use it. The other thing that we're really mindful about is all of our phone views. It's something that we're getting more and more in depth in. So really, we know that the majority of our views for these public-facing dashboards comes from phone layout, or some type of iPhone or some type of Samsung. So the idea there is start first, right, with the end in mind. Have the idea of how do you build something that someone's going to use for their phone, and then walk it backwards to what does that look like as a formal dashboard. We know the majority are going to be phone users, great, but anyone that's like an academic is going to go through it and find it using their computer, and they're going to use the web page to do it. And be very mindful again of like screen grabs or screenshots, because when people go walk away with information, they're only going to walk away with that one image. One of the best parts about Tableau, right, is how dynamic it can be. So that's just something we need to always take into consideration of. The last part is ethics, right? So for us, we want to approach everything with a non-biased approach, in the sense that we're going to go walk away with things that when we come into an idea, we get looped into a meeting, we want to make sure that we check our politics at the door and we evaluate the data as if we've never heard about it. The story we're storytellers when we work with the information. So it's better to work with people like our data science team. So we're very lucky in the sense that we have 4 or 5 data scientists that we go back and forth with. And so when we go to create a dashboard, when we go to create visualizations, Tableau is great at this in the sense that you have a multitude of things you can pick from, be it a bar graph or line graph or pie charts or a sunburst diagram. The idea there, right, is we have an idea of the way the information should be structured, and to be able to go back with the data scientists and say, all right, guys, we have this general idea. We think this is the story, provide 2 layers of verification. What do you guys think? Does this sound right? Are we using the proper graphics to communicate the story the best we can? Past that, it's subject matter experts or SMEs. So working with agencies that are very familiar with their information. And so this goes with anybody, any developer on this call. When you go to build things, you want to make sure that what you're building is useful and that you're going to keep the people that are using it in mind. So it's great to have tons of feedback from everybody, but when we're going to build things, I love to have like one source of truth or one decision maker, in the sense like who's going to use this the most, and then are they going to get the most out of it? And that's really easy to do on Tableau Server, in the sense like if we do publish something internally for the state, I can go back and view who's viewed it in the last 60, 90, 180 days. And I want to make sure that I'm getting the best or highest quality people in that conversation. When it comes to the public or working with the agencies, they usually have some type of marketing team to be able to field questions and things of that nature. So it's really important to engage and be ready to field feedback. So those are some of the best practices that we employ at MPH. How we do our a la carte dashboards, what we think about when we think about data resources, as far as like formatting goes, and how we approach ethics. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity to present. Here's the additional links. You guys are more than welcome to check these out. If anyone is interested, we are looking at hiring or currently hiring. I know we do have one opportunity open for a data scientist, but we are, I think, going to be looking for a new BI developer as well towards the beginning of the year. So keep us in your mind. Let me know if you guys have any questions.
Fantastic job, Dakota. And I'm actually going to start us off with a question. You were talking about how when you were clicking on the website, it's critical for speed in terms of the 10 seconds or so that you give it. Do you have a systematic way of your testing your dashboards to ensure that speed is there?
Yeah, so you can do it both on server for open time, and you actually underneath like the Tableau other help, it's kind of like if you were running SQL, it can tell you what's taking the most time. It actually provides you the SQL behind the Tableau, and it's something we just learned that is produced this year. It was like we had a opportunity to sit with a consultant for 4 hours, and they gave us a bunch of best practices that we could utilize. And so what we do and what we've been doing is when dashboards are taking exponentially time longer, we've been running this system, and what we'll do is we'll interact with it as if we're the user, and then we'll see where the slow times are at. And then if there's any opportunities for us to automate or to make the data a little bit more leaner, a little bit more aggregate, we have a huge checklist of like, as far as like how to improve performance of dashboards. And so the easiest thing is, hey, is your data, where do you start with the data, and then chip away from there. You can also chip away at like the idea of actions versus filters, whether or not you're using bits or whether or not you're using text search. So things of that nature.
I think those tips and tricks, I don't know about everyone else, I think that'd make incredible tips and tricks in the future.
Absolutely.
So we'll take a few more questions, and then to keep with the time, we'll have to cut it off and then have to go to direct messaging. But if anyone else has any questions for Dakota. Give it a minute and then. All right. Not seeing anything come up in the chat. So we're going to kick it off to tips and tricks with Clay.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Clay McNeff. I'm a Tableau developer at Seaspring, an IT consulting firm here in Indy. I've been coming to iTug meetings, I believe ever since I started using the tool back about 5 years ago. But this is my first quarter here as a co-chair, first time presenting. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited to get into some tips and tricks. I know that some people like to kind of quick fire through a lot of, simple tricks. I personally like to take a little bit more time talking about some more involved design tips. And I've got 5 or so on the docket today. I'll try my best to manage my time here so we can cover all 5 in the 20 or so minutes I've been allotted. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Hopefully you are all seeing my Tableau desktop. So we're going to go ahead and start with a trick that I'm just calling here custom and dynamic labels. So this really is kind of 2 tricks in one. I'm just going to, for instance, pull sum of sales over here to label. We can see all of our marks, all of our marks labels appear. But what if we only want to provide labels for some data points? Let's say, for instance, we only want to see our minimum or maximum values. Tableau provides an easy way to do this. Just click on our label card here and select min and max. It does the job. You see the max and min here are labeled, but visually it doesn't really do a lot to differentiate these marks from all of the other marks on our chart. I want these specific marks to really jump off the page. And I also want to be able to kind of change the rules for which marks are actually labeled. So I'm going to go through some of the steps we can take to kind of give these marks here a little bit more, visual appeal. So let's go ahead and start with the first of those requirements I mentioned. I want these specific marks to really jump off the page. So the solution here is to create a dual axis chart, but hide any marks I don't want displayed. So we're going to start off by duplicating our sum of sales pill here on a row shelf by holding Control and dragging that over. Let's right click on this second axis and let's select a dual axis chart. And then let's right click on, I think it's either axis, but I'm going to go ahead and go over to the right one here and select synchronize axes to make sure that they stay synchronized. I'm also going to hide the header on this one on the right so that we only have the primary Y axis here. So I'm going to go to the second chart here. Let's change that chart type to a circle graph. Let's go ahead and increase the size of these marks while we're at it. I'll go ahead and pull it up to about right here or so for now. And you can start to see the mechanism by which we're going to highlight these labeled marks. But what we need to do now is find a way to differentiate these marks by highlighting them versus all the other marks. So I've gone ahead and already created another field. It is a calculated field called max min. I'll go ahead and open that for us right here. It's a Boolean field. Let's go ahead and stretch it out. It returns a true or false after comparing each monthly sum of sales with the calculated maximum and minimum monthly sum of sales. To calculate these amounts, we're using a series of fixed LOD calculations. I won't go into what those exactly are doing now, but if we have time later in the presentation, we can kind of walk through them step by step. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and pull that max min field here into color, and we can see that those 2 fields, the maximum amount and the minimum amount, have now been colored a different color because they are returning a true versus a false. Let's go ahead and fill out now what we want to see maybe on some of these labels. So I'm going to bring in month, drop it on label. I'm also going to bring in sum of sales, drop that onto label as well. And remembering that we only want to show the highlighted data points, all we have to do is come over here to this color legend. Let's right click on the false value. Let's go ahead and hide those. And very quickly now we're only showing those labels for the 2 data points that we actually want to see. So let's clean this visualization up just a bit by making these min and max data points really kind of jump off the page. Let's change the alignment of the label here to center. There we go. Let's change the font size as well. I'm going to go ahead and open up the label here. Let me drop the monthly amount down here. Let's increase that to maybe size 11. Let's decrease the month down to 8. I think that looks pretty good to start. Let's change the size of the marks too to make those labels a little bit easier to see. Let's bring this out here to the right so that maybe our circles are fully encompassing our label there. And, comparing now what we've built to, the out of the box, minimum and maximum labeling feature, you can see really a huge difference now in the ability to kind of pull those data points out and really make them, featured on this chart. And, that's kind of the first of those 2 requirements I was talking about. If you recall, I had said that, I really wanted these points to jump off the page, but, I also wanted the ability to change the rules, that are dictating which data points are being highlighted. Seeing the maximum and minimum values may work for some stakeholders, but, what if I have an executive who, maybe only wants to see fiscal year ends, or maybe a manager who wants to see, only if sales drop below, let's say, $20,000, we can design the visualization to provide the answers for all of those. It's not a problem at all. What I've done ahead of time is I've gone ahead and created 2 additional Boolean fields here. Here's our fiscal year end. I'm just pretending here that our fiscal year is ending in November. So this is just a Boolean field that returns true if the month of the order date is 11. I've also created one here for if the sum of sales for a month is less than 20,000. I've also created a parameter that's going to allow the end user to toggle between all 3 of these. So you'll see the values here, just max min, fiscal year end, or sales less than 20,000. And then I have created a calculated field here that based on what that parameter is set to, it'll swap which of those Boolean calculations it's actually going to be running. So let's take that highlight field that we created. Let's swap it in and put it on color. Now let's go ahead and rehide all of our false values because we don't want those. And it doesn't, look any different from what we had before. And that's great because our highlight parameter, let's go ahead and show that, that's still set to max and min. But if we change this to fiscal year end, you'll see that it automatically changes those highlighted data points to only those that are occurring in November. If we select sales less than 20,000, here we've got them for less than 20,000. Now this here, they aren't showing, and that's just because I have not enabled the labels to overlap. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and even throw a border on these. And there we go. We've got, a nice clean visualization that can show all of these data points, exactly how we want them and give us the flexibility to swap based on a different set of rules, which I think is, a nice little way to give the end user some flexibility to answer, really exactly what question they're wanting answered. So we'll go ahead and leave that one for now. Let's go on to our next tip or trick. I call this one just muting background images. I want to preface this trick by saying that, background images aren't really a best practice. They can draw the eye away from what's truly important, the data. However, I have run into some situations in which background images, can either provide some additional context or maybe provide just a bit of, artistic, thematic flair if done right without distracting, the user. So here's an example of the first of those, one that really the background images provides some needed context. So in this visualization, we've charted discount versus profit for a variety of manufacturers. These type of scatter plots really lend themselves well to a kind of 4-quadrant analysis. In this case, manufacturers here in the bottom right, those with high profits, low discounts, those are the ones that probably can be considered to be operating, fairly efficiently. On the other hand, manufacturers up here in the top left, those are the ones with, large discounts, negative profits. So those are ones that, you could probably argue are operating fairly poorly. They may need some drastic changes to operations, marketing, something to start to pull themselves down and to the right on this chart. So the visualization creates a bit of a diagonal gradient. So, as such, I really wanted to go out and find a red to gold to green diagonal gradient that I can slap on the back here to help that user understand that those that are, more towards the bottom right, those are, that's the location that you want to be. It's really going to help the end user more quickly reach some of the insight that I'm hoping this chart can provide. So, but the image that I picked here, it really didn't originally look like this. The original photo is really, bright, really vibrant. So we can see that by going up to map and going to background images. I can select the one that I actually have here behind the chart. And you can see that if I pull this washout bar all the way to the left, this is what the visualization originally looked like. For me, I felt it was way too distracting. So moving that washout slider bar, pretty considerably to the right, it's going to mute that background and make it look, quite a bit better. So let's go ahead and look at a different example. Here's the same data, but it's put in front of a darker image. I think this is a time-lapse image of stars. It doesn't make a lot of sense here, looking at discount versus profit data for sample store manufacturers. But let's go ahead and pretend that it has some sort of thematic reason why you'd want this here in the background. Similar to our last image, the default view is just a little bit too distracting. It's hard to see these individual data points with so much noise in the background. We can go to the same menu we were looking at earlier, and we have the same washout bar, but this washout, it's making everything, brighter, more gray. That's not really accomplishing what we want here. We already have some light data points. If anything, we actually want to darken this image and not lighten it. But Tableau doesn't provide a darkening bar. It's only a washout slider. So how can we get around that? I'm going to show you how. There is a way, there is a slider bar, but it's maybe not exactly where you'd expect it to be. So instead of editing the image as a background within one specific sheet, what I'm actually going to do is drop the image here onto a dashboard. I've already gone ahead and done this for us. I'm going to go pay attention to this size, 1300 by 740 pixels. We're going to use it later because we're going to drop some floating objects on top of this. So let's add first a black background. So we can do this by bringing a floating blank sheet. Once again, we're going to drop it up here. We're going to go to layout. We're going to position it starting at 0, 0, and we're going to make it the same size as the dashboard. So 1300 by 740. We're not going to see this because the blank background, the blank sheet is just blank. However, you can give background colors to these sheets. So if we make it black with 0 or 100% opacity, you're not going to see anything through it. But if you start to slide this down, you'll see that image pop back through. But because we've got some, maybe I'll pick 60% opacity here, it's muting those colors quite a bit more so that you can have that thematic background without being too distracting. So I can go ahead and, bring my sheet on like I normally would. Let me pull this out to make sure I've got the right one. I think it's right here. So I'm going to put this back up like I did before with the blank sheet. Let's go ahead and drop it at 0, 0, 1300 by 740 pixels. And here you see, let's go ahead and hide this title as well while we're at it, that we've got what we originally, I think, intended to do, but without having this super, super bright background. Now it's a little bit more hidden, a little bit cleaner. Eyes are still drawn to the data, but you've got that image in the background, which I think could be pretty cool. So I think that's it for this tip. Let's go ahead and go on to the next one. And this one is really my only, incredibly quick one. And it is adjusting tooltips without leaving a dashboard. So this trick is incredibly quick and easy, but somehow, despite having been using Tableau for 5 years now, I didn't really know this until I was preparing for this presentation. So ultimately, my message is going to say, don't be like me. For years, if I've noticed an issue with, let's say, a tooltip late in the development cycle, and I need to fix that, see here, I've got manufacturer, I've got an error in that link. What did I need to do to fix that? Well, I've already had these sheets, zipped up and hidden. So I have to come down to the dashboard, unhide all sheets. I may have to search for the sheet if I've got a ton of them, eventually find it, click on it, go to my tooltip, fix it here. Let's change that font color back. Go back to the dashboard, go ahead and hide it again once I'm happy with it. That's a lot of steps to fix that just to get into a tooltip. I didn't know that if you've got your sheet selected here, all you need to do is come up to worksheet, tooltip, and bam, you pull it up immediately. I can't imagine how much time this could have saved me over the years of manually going through all those steps of getting into the sheets, finding the sheets, fixing the tooltips. This one's really clean, really simple, and I know I'll probably use it all the time now, once I really shift into dashboard mode, an easy way of getting into those tooltips without opening the worksheet. So that one is great. I know I'll use that all the time. Let's move on to my fourth one. Trying to keep an eye on the time. This may be our last one. We may have to save tip 5 for quarter 4. But this one is using annotations to draw lines. So I'm not a big fan of placing static objects on top of visualizations to highlight, key data points or trends, but I've also found myself presenting to executives who need that extra little, nudge to understand what you're trying to convey. So an arrow highlighting an upwards trend, for instance, or, a stick figure clapping if you meet a certain threshold, those type of things. Today, I'm going to focus on drawing lines. So I've used a few different methods for doing this in the past. I'm going to quickly walk through a few of them, show you my newest preferred method. So what I'm displaying here is 4 years of sales data with each November highlighted. Let's pretend, this, these mark the end of fiscal year, similar to one of our previous examples. And let's start drawing some lines between these data points to clue our end user into how these November data points compare, year over year. So one method is to use an image of an arrow. If I drag a floating image box out here, I can add an image that I've already downloaded and saved here to my local machine. Here I've got it labeled arrow right. I could drop this in. I can, resize it a bit, place it here maybe between these two. I could even add, a little bit of a text box to give, a data point behind it, maybe a delta or something like that. And, what we've effectively done is display that there was, a minimal difference between the sales in November 2016, November 2017. One pro of this approach is that, you can pick whichever fancy arrow you want, from the internet, design your own. But it also comes with some huge disadvantages. You don't have, flexibility with color, with directionality. You can't, align with start and end points. You're basically just slapping a static image onto your workbook. Your only flexibility really is as great as the collection of arrow images you're willing to store and organize. I know some people who have hundreds and hundreds of arrow images of different colors, different directionalities. And if that's the approach you want to take, that's great. But again, it's a lot to manage. So if you need a little bit more flexibility, you can draw your own lines by using some small floating blank objects. So I'm going to attempt to do this, a little bit quickly here. I'm going to take some floating blank objects here, resize it a bit. Go ahead and come up here, change it to 3 pixels. Let's change the background color to, let's do green, why not? Let's add a couple more. These may not be perfectly well aligned, but hopefully you'll get the point of what I'm trying to do here. Let's change that to green. Maybe pull one more over here to get it back over to this November 2018 data point. All right, so not tremendously pretty, but you can massage it a little bit more in your own time if you were doing this yourself. It's, the method gives you far more on the spot flexibility when it comes to, color, when it comes to arranging your line start and end points exactly where you want them, but they do tend to look, really boxy because you can only draw these, vertical or horizontal lines if this is the method you choose. So it's another option. It's not tremendously useful option though. Let's say, you want a diagonal line. You want one with, an arrowhead on the ends. You want the ability to change the direction of the line without having to maintain, that huge library of images. The answer here really is in annotations. Let's go ahead and right click this last data point over here, and let's choose to annotate this mark. Let's clear out this text. And let's go ahead and move the actual text box down closer to this 3rd data point. Now, the data point, or I'm sorry, the text box still has some color to it. So we can go in here to format it. Let's go with a 0 shading so that the user won't see the text box. And then now you'll see that the cool thing about annotations is it always tries to link that box with the point that you're actually trying to annotate. All we're doing here is we're repurposing that line to become our arrow. What's really cool about it is if you go into format that line, you have the ability not only to change kind of the shape of it, the thickness, the color, but you can also choose aligned in. So let's pick maybe an open arrow. Let's give it a big size here. And let me click off of it. And look at how much cleaner that is. And I didn't have to save anything. I had the total flexibility to move the, the box around anywhere I wanted to. It's a really nice option aesthetically. It's, much better. It's going to save you a lot of time not having to juggle all of these blank boxes. It's something that I didn't even, know you could really do until lately. And it's something that's definitely going to save me a lot of time in the future. So I do think I'm going to end there. I'm up over, I think 22 minutes if my clock is right. So let's go ahead and save trick number 5 for quarter 4. With that, I'll go ahead and kick it back over to Ryan.
Great job, Clay. And I personally love the small tips. Those are my favorites. The ones where you know or you didn't know something existed within Tableau itself that really could save you a lot of time, which was the one that was editing the tooltips of a worksheet from a dashboard with just the click up at the top left.
Oh, yeah.
That one was my favorite. If we have any questions, take a quick minute to see if anyone has any questions about your tips, and then we'll wrap up soon. I've got one last poll to take. And I think if you noticed when you were taking the poll, there was 2 questions at the top or the bottom that were asking about what you thought of the presentations. And I'm going to be re-polling those last 2 questions. Give it a second. I actually just started the poll if you wouldn't mind taking it. And then if you do have a question for Clay, please drop it down in the chat. Please bear with me. The polling is something new for us. I believe I need to export this. Actually, one moment. I'm going to try to export the results from the previous poll because the previous poll has a lot of information that we need. And if I launch the next poll, it's going to be deleting the information out of that. I'm going to take a quick screenshot. Let me stretch this out. I'll take a quick screenshot and then I'll start the next poll. Okay. Okay. Okay, launching the next poll. There we go. All right. Last thing, as we're finishing up here, it seems that 66% of everyone's taken the poll right now. That's going to continue going on. But I just want to reiterate, the best way that you can connect with us is please join our LinkedIn group. It's going to be the best way that we can communicate with you. And then also you can subscribe to our Splash events, which is going to give you more of a direct email coming from Tableau. That one actually sometimes has some issues, and that's why we're letting you know please join our LinkedIn group, because that's always going to have the messaging on there. And then if you're looking for those Splash invites, check your spam and junk folders. And then I also wanted to just thank Brad, Dakota, and Clay for presenting today. Some great tips, another data management eye-opener, and along with the Indiana MPH dashboards. And I also want to reiterate, we're targeting December 8th for our Q4. We need speakers. We want to have more participation from our members to be presenting themselves. And we're going to continue on with tips and tricks as well. And without further ado, just about on time, 1 minute before. Thank you for joining.
Hey, Ryan, one more quick note as we wrap up for the speaking engagement, guys. It doesn't have to be anything advanced. Just we want to hear what you're doing, right? So you don't have to really